This conference will now be recorded.
Welcome to Senior Living Marketing Perspectives. I'm Debbie Howard, co-founder of Senior Living Smart. And today we welcome Julie Podewitz, who is the Chief Sales Officer for Vitality Living. So welcome, Julie.
Well, thank you, Debbie.
I am thrilled to have you on. Julie and I go way back many years when I was on the operator side of the industry, and we've always enjoyed each other's company, have served on industry boards and spoken together at conferences. So when we first started thinking about doing the podcast, Julie was right at the top of my list. so glad to have you on.
Very, very pleased to be on your list at all, let alone the top of it. So pleased to be here.
Absolutely. And just to put into context kind of where we are in April of 2020. And depending on when people listen to or watch this podcast, the world may be different, but the world that we're living in right now is kind of smack dab in the middle of COVID-19, with many communities, sheltering in place, not being able to welcome visitors, and really kind of upending all the traditional kind of sales and marketing strategy and tactics that we've kind of bought into over the year, and has kind of rocked our world a little bit. So let's jump right in, Julie, as Chief Sales Officer. In spite of all this, we still have to move the troops forward, right?
We do, and Vitality, we are moving in new residents, safely, obviously following protocols. And as much as we know in our local markets in 5 states, the folks that we talk to are also doing the same. It's in some rare cases not, but most are moving forward. Yes.
That's great.
Therein lies the challenge. Yeah.
Yeah, therein lies the challenge. You still want to do everything safely. You want to protect residents and want to help out families who are really in need of your services. So in terms of like just starting with lead generation, I don't know whether you read Senior Housing News this morning, had a whole article about kind of lead generation, and had some insights from, Place for Mom and other, large third-party aggregators. And, they're definitely seeing some impact in terms of volume. However, they're still seeing high intent. So what are you seeing? What's your perspective on that?
I would agree with that. Our leads are down. Our leads are significantly down in some markets, more than 50%. Not as much in others, but in some as much as 50%. However, sales conversions stay very strong, and in some cases are even higher than pre-COVID. So it's an interesting dynamic, because our sales all across our portfolio are moving forward, right? So our lead generation, our total leads are down, but sales remain pretty good.
So do you think that has to do with the fact that people who are still actively searching for senior housing and care solutions are just the people who have, the highest level of need at this point? Maybe other services have broken down, like adult day or senior centers, or some of those kind of support services, or they're being separated from family. And that kind of, so you have fewer leads, but the leads that you're having truly are farther down the funnel and closer to decision?
I think that sums it up really well, Debbie. Also, it's interesting because our move-ins aren't coming just from new leads, as is the case always, and should be the case, right? Not always, we need more leads, I want someone new who's hot and will move today. But what we're seeing very interestingly is that some of our database leads, right? We'll talk about that a little bit more, in the conversation, but for whatever reason, right? And in this case, it's been COVID specific, has reignited or moved that sense of urgency forward, in a massive direction. So we're seeing it both sides. Yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting. So let's jump into that now, because we've always told the sales team that there's gold in the colds. And they look at us like we're crazy and they roll their eyes. And
Hmm.
who wants to call somebody that's kind of lost interest or lost steam or whatever. And the newer leads are always more interesting. And I think we've been led to believe, maybe we've created our own belief system that, a lead is never going to be hotter than the first time, that they reach out to you. And so that's really where the opportunity is. But with fewer leads to work, now your team has the
Hmm.
time, right? Because they'll always tell us, I don't have time to work the colds because there's so many new leads coming in, I can't get to them. So have there been any particular strategies that you guys have? Did you coach around how to have those conversations? Is it less salesy in some ways because you really can't
Hmm.
fall back on, hey, why don't you come for lunch? Why don't you come for this event? Wouldn't you like to tour? Which, maybe they're just tired of us only having those three things to offer them. So are you finding that the conversations are different, or the amount of time is different, or just the ability to connect because everybody's kind of a captive audience? Or what's the feedback that you're getting
Mm.
that you're able to now bubble up these older, colder leads, into move-ins?
Hmm. Hmm. First of all, for anyone listening, it's always hard work. It's not magic, and it's not every cold lead or lead that's been in the database. I don't even like that term, cold lead, but longer term lead are you make one phone call and it's magic, and you reignite and they move in. It's a lot of consistency, right? Doing what we're supposed to be doing, and focusing. What I'm telling our sales team really isn't that much different, Debbie, is that is focusing on the moment, focused on that step, right? And yes, we've got the sales goals and we're competitive and there's pressure, but I'm in the moment of speaking with you, or really for you speaking to me, because I want to listen, right, in the moment now. And it's interesting because I think the COVID it's new for all of us, right? And we're a little, I think, just now sort of getting out of that shell shock, and kind of into a new normal. We're ever going to go back to business as pre-COVID. I don't, but it's almost forced us to do what we really should be doing, which is asking good questions and how are people doing through this. And maybe this has given that opportunity to salespeople who shy away from the phone. I don't know what to say. Like you said, I offered him lunch, I offered him a tour, I offered him a discount, and they're still not moving in, right?
Right.
And then learning and engaging. What we're finding, Debbie, is that our phone calls are longer,
Mm-hmm.
right? So time spent with prospects longer. Conversations are about them and how they're feeling. And it's interesting because maybe with less leads, like you said, we're out of that busy, and maybe more in the productive.
Right. That's a really good point. And I think we always talk about empathetic sales and, keeping the conversation focused on the prospect, but it seems easier to do in these days because you really just want to reach out and say, how are you doing? And do you have
Mm-hmm.
everything that you need? And do you have enough food? And do you
Mm-hmm.
have enough supplies?
Right.
And is there anything we can help you with? Are you finding that people are just more wanting to just talk and connect, or are you finding that maybe they do have some specific needs that you can connect them to that food bank or that restaurant delivery service? Are you kind of having more of those kinds of conversations, or just kind of reconnecting?
Hmm. Interesting question. We're working on putting those resources together formally for each local community to have that information at the ready, and to be able to send that out and have it again available for our sales directors. I think what we're finding now is two things: is that the person who's needs to connect, is even eager to connect. They're
Yeah.
alone. They can't go out, and they may not be moving today, and that's okay. But we're being able to connect. Maybe we are able, learning what they might be needing. But it's more on that human level, and then we're seeing higher needs. higher need. We need to do it now, even though I'm very scared. I'm very nervous. How is this going to work? But the need's so high that they're doing it in spite of.
Right. And you have all the safety measures in place around testing and
Mm-hmm.
quarantining.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you're able
Yeah.
to kind of get them over some of those initial fears as
Right.
well. Are
Right.
professionals
Right.
reaching out at all, Julie, or are the professionals just so up, in the weeds with their own COVID cases, or are they trying to
Mm-hmm.
find other solutions for people who maybe just had a hip replacement or just came in because
Mm-hmm.
of another health event, or are they really distancing themselves at this point and all of your leads are coming in more from the community and database side?
Mm-hmm. I'm going to clarify, in spite of, I mean in spite of their fear, not in spite of the potential, right? It's in spite of their fear, because we
Sure.
do have a lot of protocols, right, in place. It's interesting. This is, COVID has hit us all like, the fire hose, and I think our professionals, we've all seen and are focusing on, and I hope we are, the vital heroes and the local heroes and the healthcare heroes. And whether or not you're specifically in the healthcare field or not, you're out in front of and helping, you're an absolute hero. So I think that anything that we can do to reach out and, be even if it's a resource or it's an ear or it's my goodness, how is it going for you? What we're finding is that our referral source leads and our professional leads are up. We're talking about leads being down across the board, and they are, but certain sources of leads are up, and the referrals that we're getting are urgent, right? They're people that are in need right now, and as long as we do that continuous, right,
Mm-hmm.
consistent, not continuous, but more consistent outreach, we're in the touches, and it's not always about, hey, you got a referral for me, right?
Right.
It's more of, hey, how are you doing, right? And or we have this comprehensive guide. I wanted to share it with you in case you knew you had some families that you're working with that might need some resources, or what is it that you need? What can I deliver? That kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's again, it's giving a true reason, right? There's always a reason, but this is so massive that our sales directors that are doing your consistent outreach are getting referrals that are moving in.
Well, that's good. That's really
Mm-hmm.
good. So,
Yeah, I wouldn't say referral sources are really reaching out to us necessarily,
okay,
right?
interesting.
We need to be the ones to reach out to them, as it
Okay.
should be.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
good point. I'm sure that they appreciate, any kind of offers to help or care packages sent over or resources that they can share, all of that type of thing. How about creative follow-up? A lot of times we just
Mm-hmm.
don't have time. Are you replacing home visits with maybe dropping off supplies or meals, or can you
Mm-hmm.
tell me a little bit about kind of that nurturing and that creative follow-up that your teams are doing?
Mm-hmm. Good. Yeah, it's a great question. And yes, personal touches, creative follow-up. Now is the time. And I love when, we get on calls, talk about goals for the week or what you really want to focus on. And so many of our sales directors are focusing on personal touches, or that creative follow-up. And I love that, because when you're focusing on that, the sales will come, the outcomes will be there. And it's a mixture, Debbie, of drop-off. We're not doing food, not prepared food, but if it's, boxed and it's, or in a box, right, with care instructions about cleaning or leaving it for 3 days before opening it and things like that, obviously non-perishables. We had a sales director at our new community, Traditions of Mill Creek. It just opened. It opened March 1st. Can you imagine? In the middle, right at
Great
the start of all
timing.
of this. It's great timing. They've moved in 23 people already, but she recently she did her outreach, or she did her, her follow-up calls, and one of her prospects in the database couldn't get out. And so she did a little grocery shopping for her. And I mean, really, that's incredible. And one, lady started to cry. So
I bet.
it's really just finding out what people need. And that's just a little example, of what, if we just listen and find out what people need, uh, we can be there. And then, of
Yeah.
course, there's the shipping, Amazon or ordering something. We had, and just in a cute example, I love hearing this because it's the personal stories really bring it to life. One of our sales directors was talking to a prospect, and she was, how are you doing? And she was talking about she can't sleep, and she was talking about restless legs,
Hmm.
restless legs, and just
Yeah.
kind of talking about this, and they're just really having a horrible time with it. And she went on Amazon and got some cream and, restless and
Yeah.
ordered it, for $18. And the woman called her and just started to cry.
Yeah.
Like, I can't believe you did this,
Yeah.
and it's just about listening to somebody and
And
being there for
caring,
them
right?
and care.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Listening, caring, and kind of following through. So these,
exactly. And
you know,
then, yeah.
these kind of situations, we have no playbook for it. We're all trying to figure it out. But it also creates innovation and it's a great time to kind of experiment. So, what are some of the new, maybe approaches or strategies or technologies that you've tried that are really effective? That when you think, gosh, even when things hopefully return to some degree of normalcy where we can start getting into some of our normal sales and marketing, I don't want to lose this. Like, what are some of those things for you that have been really effective?
Mm, great question. It's always smart to partner, no pun intended. We partner with Senior Living Smart, but it's always great to partner with experts. So, Vitality Living, we lean on you, and your phenomenal team, Debbie, as well as some other partners. But a couple things that we've done, I'm sure that others listening probably have too. Certainly the virtual, like what we're doing now, right? And virtual meetings, virtual visits, virtual tours, both recorded and live. And there's people from everything from they're experts at doing this to they've never done it before,
Yep.
both on both sides, right?
Hmm.
And that I believe will the virtual piece. I believe and we should be taking that onward because you're talking with someone maybe on the phone or hey, what would you like to stop by, or why don't we jump online real quick and do FaceTime or do a Zoom or what have you, and I'll give you a quick walk around. So that's been huge for us and
Yeah.
really successful. Our Facebook Live event, hugely successful. Would love to share you some statistics with the audience because it's blowing
Yeah.
my mind
Love to know
actually.
about that. Yeah.
We're so excited. Sales mail is something that we've implemented and we have found already we're having a good degree of response, and that's the videos like professionally, they're really just
Yep.
easily shot on your phone or on your desktop. And so instead of an email response, it's just a brief 30-second personal message, and I'm getting I can see the dashboard and then I'll get little messages like, oh my gosh, I got a response back. So we're definitely taking that. We've added a COVID, informational page to our website and that's updated. And we're finding we've had a 10,000 increase in visitors since we have added that in like the last month. That's just crazy. The daily distractions, thank you so much, Senior Living Smart, for coming up with some creative ways to stay in contact and continue to be a resource. We're sort of in the second phase, right, of this COVID plan. The first is response, right, information, response, management, kind of crisis management. And now this phase of being a resource, being a resource locally. You mentioned like food banks, food pantries, information, what businesses deliver, just being that resource. And then also maybe just being that one-on-one resource of something else to think about. Like, let's go to the opera today, right?
Right.
And it's an
Right.
email, the link, or I think Kay's daily distraction was a short 20-minute breathing exercise, breathing kind of yoga, deep breathing exercise. And to me, I love getting those. And it's like, we want to think about something else. We want you to think about you for a minute. COVID's important, and here's some information. But you know what? Why don't you go to the opera today? The comprehensive guide that your team put together has been huge for us. We started a YouTube channel. It gets really, this is certainly not anything that was in anyone's playbook. The adversity really, it's that it really forces us to say, okay, what else can we do? What are we going to do?
Right.
We can't sit back and say, well, leads are down, forget it. What else are we going to do? What do our customers need? Right? What do they want?
Yeah, I think that the statistic I saw today was like 29% of people, prospects who were surveyed, said that, the COVID situation is probably going to delay their move. It's not going to stop their move. It's not that they've changed their mind. It's just more of a timing thing. So you get into this place of, how do I stay top of mind? How do I make sure that we are the name that they're seeing on a regular basis in a really positive way? So I know when we work with your team, we're looking at, some things that are just super educational, right? Here's best practices. Here's making sure that you understand, as a CDC changes guidelines, that you're most up to date. Here's how to shop safely. Like, there's a certain piece of it that's educational. And there's a certain part that's just relational, right? It's about, we want to make sure you know all the senior shopping hours in your market. We want to give you a list of restaurants that deliver or offer curbside. Like, how do we humanize and make sure that the day-to-day is also successful? And then we threw in some fun. So I think on Wednesday, there's a thing about the penguin cam at the Kansas City Aquarium and a link to the penguins running amok, in the Chicago aquarium. So it's like we're all kind of hunkered down at home, and days may pass slowly, especially if you're an older adult alone. So if you can give them something to look forward to and say, gosh, that Vitality community, they were the ones that sent me the opera, and they sent me the Van Gogh exhibit from the Museum of Fine Arts, and all these things that added to my day. So I think those are some of the creative things. And then I'd love to hear about your Facebook Live, because I know that has been just a big success. Is that specifically for just family communication, or are you finding in any way that prospects are also accessing that as a communication channel?
Absolutely both. Absolutely both. And Debbie, any experience is the ultimate teacher, right? I should have done, or I could have done this. Well, you don't know it until you've actually done it. It's like, why have we not been promoting more Facebook Live? And through COVID was, okay, we asked the executive directors to do one daily, a daily update, 10 a.m. And again, it's everybody from the really, the extrovert who loves doing things like that to one who was petrified, absolutely petrified to do it. And it started out that, and they still do it. The consistency is important. And now it's, there isn't any other kind of COVID update, or very rare, right? So what do we do? And, engaging our residents, we do talk about, move-in safety of new move-ins. We do COVID tests in our company. And our prospects want to know that. They want to know what's going on in the community. So again, doing what we should be doing, right, which is personalizing the experience. And to your point, if people aren't ready to move now, those that have the needs very high, they will. But those who are like, let's just wait till this sort of simmers down a bit, those that we've nurtured, I call it a bottleneck, right? That is this, we should be bottlenecked, right? So that when the restrictions lift, we have worked and nurtured that we have a huge number, a much bigger number of move-ins. Right. Just to give you an idea of and this is a 10 community region. We have had, there are 10 communities, 200, I'm looking at my stats here, 287,000 impressions since, and that means people watching video, eyes on video and photos. 280, that's more than 250,000 since the 16th of March.
Wow.
That's crazy.
That is amazing.
So you'd asked earlier, what are we doing differently? What are we going to take? Well, now the challenge is, or the privilege would be, what do we do to build on this, right? You have this audience now. What can we provide them moving forward that they're going to find valuable, that they're going to continue to come on, right?
Right.
And engage with us and watch us. Once COVID is, again, it's never going to be, back to things the way they were, but once it's, restrictions lift and it's not the number one thing on everyone's mind. So that, I love challenges like that, and no one has a playbook. We're all working together, right? But to me, this is a priority, right? And a privilege to be able to have expanded. Just to give you an idea, the month prior, same time frame, we had about 13,000 impressions. We went from 13,000 to 287,000.
Right.
Crazy.
You got to keep that going.
Yeah.
It'll probably be different, but it's almost like a public stand-up meeting, right? We have our department head stand-up meeting, and which is always funny because it's kind of like behind closed doors, and all the staff here is like laughing and giggling, and they're sure you guys are just having a party in there, right? And it's this it's this mystery morning event, but then you almost make it a public event by having this almost like a stand-up meeting. And I know you've had people, executive directors, who brought residents in to help them with the broadcast and tell them what their day is going to be like, and maybe featuring a department head, your food service director, and and I think those are really powerful because it's kind of hard to represent what we do and compare it to the home environment, right? Because I think we've always been battling against home sweet home and kind of selling against our biggest competitors, not each other. It's about the home. But in this case, we have a comparison where we're all in this social isolation, but you're either like super isolated, wondering who's going to deliver my groceries, how am I going to get my medicine, what happens when I run out of toilet paper, versus in a community setting of knowing you're going to get all your meals, you're going to get your medication, there's somebody there 24 hours a day. So you're going through a similar experience, but I think in a way that's totally not salesy. You can just say, this is what we're doing today, or this is what's on our menu today. And people at home are going like, I got Campbell's soup. That's my, that's my lunch. And look at this, this wonderful meal. And your chef is talking about that. You know what I mean?
Oh, it's fantastic. It's a great point. And it's storytelling, right?
It is.
Paul Smith is, the impact of storytelling. You don't tell people about, you tell the story, and what speaks more than a resident coming on, or just showing, what's been happening. And it's like you said, it's real. It's like what you and I are doing this right now. I mean, I'm in my home office, and we're all sheltering at home, and we're just kind of doing our thing. It's real. It's not perfect, and it's some of it's silly and goofy. It's serious and emotional, spiritual. All it runs a gamut of humanity, and I think that, like you said, it's just life, and what speaks louder, really, about what we're doing than demonstrating it, and it's just a phenomenal demonstration. And if I could just take a minute to give a shout out, and really there are no words to really describe the gratitude and the admiration that I have, and I know our entire leadership team, and Chris Gay mentioned on his last Facebook Live, our CEO, our caregivers, our team members, our team members that are with our residents, and 24 hours a day in food service and care and it's tremendous, just tremendous. And the love, you and I both have been in this business for a long time, right? And I think we've talked about before how part of why we love it is because people are so good. They're good, they're nice, they're good people. And they, no matter what your job is, we care about the residents. And this, to me, has demonstrated more than ever because, they are going, they're going out. I'm sheltering at home, right? And, our residents need our teams. And I think that story and all the stories that we hear about the heroes is, we can't say enough about it. We can't say enough
Yeah.
about it. So.
No, I agree. And I think it's really up to us to create our own narrative, because right now in the media, the narrative is not positive. I think there's a lot of, well, misunderstanding, because the media is kind of lumping every senior housing and care provider into the general term of nursing home. People probably don't know all the differences. And so I think for us, we've got to create the positive message and use our marketing channels to really honor those caregiver heroes and the people that showed up and keep showing up. And I think it's probably also a great and powerful time to kind of capture testimonials, because families must be incredibly grateful that they can sleep at night. And even though it's hard not being able to see, their loved ones personally, just to have that confidence, in the team and in the care that they're getting. So let's talk a little bit about kind of reopening, right? So we went through crisis communication, and that was a lot of, building out the COVID page. And I know we wrote blogs and ebooks and, did all kinds of workflows and everything around education and trying to get ahead of things. And now it's about helping people's days be brighter, and being a resource to them. And now we're beginning to see some states, although we don't have a date in mind of when we'll be open for visitors, and how we do that in a way that's thoughtful and safe. But what do you think the right messaging should be as we begin to, kind of think about reopening? Do you think it's important to really distinguish the difference between nursing home and senior living, so that there's like a compare and contrast, so that we kind of separate out those images and messages that have been in the media? Do you think that there are certain channels or sensitivity to messaging that we should be thinking about, and kind of how we get back to some cadence of normal? Just wondering what your thoughts are about that.
Oh, great question. It's the conversations we all should be having now. So thank you for bringing it up. And I know our leadership team got together this morning on this very topic. What's the plan? Always understanding that things could change and shift, but we do need to put a plan together, right? And do it. I think no matter what we do, Debbie, what my advice is, or what we at Vitality go by is honesty, transparency, is letting people know, right? I think if people don't know, they fear. So letting people know, and people aren't always going to agree 100% with everything you do and say, right? But if you're honest, you're upfront. This is what we're doing. I think as we reopen, be very specific, just like we're very specific, and go on our website and call us to tell you exactly the steps that we're taking for new move-ins. And to be honest, that we've had some criticism about testing people that were asymptomatic, and we had an example of someone that we tested who was totally asymptomatic, and come to find out, positive. So we were able to circumvent a potential negative situation there. So being we're going to have those. Nobody's going to agree with us 100% of the time, but I would say being very upfront with exactly how we're going to do it. And I don't know the specifics yet, but we're going to need to physically protect ourselves, continue to do that. I'm not sure about separating. I think this is an age-old question too, Debbie, is in our business is, and there's nothing wrong with a nursing home or skilled nursing. It's we're so quick to say it is it's a great service, and for the needs of it fits the needs, but it's that age old that to help people understand exactly what is retirement living, what does independent living and assisted living and memory care, and how do we differentiate. I don't think it's any different now in COVID or beyond. I don't think the struggle is unique, right? That to help people understand exactly who we are and what we do, I think it's just getting out there more, building on a platform, being out with storytelling and with you would say education. Nobody really wants to be educated, but informational pieces, right? And really more storytelling around what it looks like or might feel like at our community. And I would, I would agree with you. I think our nursing home, they've taken and senior living's kind of been lumped into it. It's taken a pretty harsh beating with COVID. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think we're going to have to work through that transition, back.
Totally.
Yeah, and be really, sensitive, with our messaging and with our storytelling. And certainly, it's easier and it's a more positive story for the communities that come through without a positive case. It's going to be harder on the communities for sure that had an outbreak or something that was pretty public, in terms of just regaining trust and that type of thing. But it's interesting. We've kind of thrown out our playbook and some of our belief systems. Like, I mean, we had a very long held absolute belief that you could not sell, you could not close the sale without somebody coming into the community. Never happened in the history of my career, and I moved in thousands of families. You had to have that community experience, whether it was an event or a lunch or a visit of some kind. And now we've kind of shown ourselves that we can. So how, in terms of moving forward, and I think you've also found, I think the things that, from what I'm hearing that you've discovered from this, is sometimes more leads is not better leads. Sometimes having more time to work fewer leads actually improves conversions. And that there's actually gold in the colds, like we were telling people all the time. And there's always value in working the database. So what are you hoping, like, how do you take the experience of traditional sales and marketing when we can kind of get back to some level of normal and kind of combine it with what we've learned in having to innovate the way that we've attracted, nurtured, and converted sales during this period of time? Tell me a little bit about what that's like for you and what your takeaways are and what that looks like.
Ooh, a couple things come to mind. First is embracing technology, that those who were afraid of it, even simple technology, that virtual tours, there were some folks who even like an email blast. I mean, things that are pretty simple, right, that we really would consider technology, or live Facebook. So embracing the technology and what it can do for your customer. And we are it's a new way of communicating, right? As maybe when you and I grew up is different than my daughter's 16 and sheltering at home and with all the other kids and schools canceled, and she's talking this way, right, with her friends, which isn't the same as face to face. But gosh darn, when I was away from my friends, we wrote letters. I mean, because we couldn't talk long distance. Or my dad was there with the kitchen timer on for 30 seconds and just a quick hi. So this is the way people feel, comfortable now, or getting there. So number one is embracing technology, and I'm smiling when you're saying that, and I would say the same thing. You got to tour the community, visit the community. Certainly, home visits have proven that we can close without. But we've been doing parking lot sales and 6 foot. I mean, staying 6 feet apart. With because of the relationship, right? So that building that you really aren't selling a building. We really are. It's an emotional sale, and I think it's driving home more what we know to be true more than ever. It's sort of the ultimate, for me, the ultimate takeaway, and what I'm hearing our sales directors do in these times for their customers. And Debbie, what I would hope that all of us would take away is that continued sense of urgency that they have now because of COVID. It's, you don't want disasters ever to happen ever. but certainly you and I both, I mean, I've lived in Florida. I lived in Florida 25 years, and we all, and all over the country have natural disasters, right? And people just, gosh, they step up so incredibly much. And you can't live your life running a sprint, okay? You can't do that, and that's what this feels like, right? But finding a pace that's between a crawl and a sprint, right? So now that we're running the race like jogging, right? Because we've conditioned ourselves by this sprint. So between the sprint and the crawl is like this nice jog, and so we're going to be more successful, and we're going to run this race, right, at a more successful pace. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I'm thinking about, we've heard that this may be somewhat seasonal or cyclical. So we may be back here again, whether that again is in the fall or the winter. So, based on your experience, like what would you do differently? And then what preparation do you plan to make within this, kind of, hopefully we get through the surge and things quiet down. We have a period of, relative normalcy. And then should it come back, because of a season, is it important to give a little more training of technology to the team so they feel more comfortable? Is it important to upgrade Wi-Fi so you have the signal? Is it, like what are those things around either creating a playbook? Because we didn't have a playbook before, right? Now we can use this experience and actually create, unfortunately, maybe our COVID kit, if you will, of, okay, we know what the first 4 weeks are going to look like, and then we know the resource, and then kind of the transitioning back into normalcy. And anything come to mind in terms of, what you do differently, or how you might prepare if there's another cycle?
Well, like I said, I think that we're going to go to a new normal, right? So we have to define, I don't know we don't know what that's going to look like. We need to be open-minded to all agree that, to your point, it's not going to be, oh, it's over and we're all going right back. We may wear masks to tour indefinitely, right? I would say I love your idea about, adding the technology piece to the training. And nothing is too simple, nothing's too difficult, right? We have to just don't take for granted that what's easy for you might be easy for the next person. And I would say we have a playbook now, and just to not put it away, right? And let maybe dust off, we don't have to, but to have it at the ready, and to schedule time, weekly. I would say weekly or every other week, and look at what's going on, what revisions, or do we need to add to this? It's tough to say what to do differently because we were just thrown into this. I would say, oh boy, you can't react to absolutely everything you hear at a 911, but it just take things really seriously, right? I mean, take things very, very seriously. And I'm so grateful that our team, it was like middle February, to the end of Feb, when at Vitality we started sitting around the table. And I think I told you before, I was thinking, are we overreacting? And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful, because what's the harm in it? What's the harm in planning? If it was over planning,
great.
So what? You're right. I mean, you took a few hours to overplan, but at the risk of not doing that, right? Is scrambling. It's scrambling. So I think just and being having a system. I would say to have a system for a plan, if that makes sense, right? Mm-hmm. And maybe like based on people's expertise, who's going to do what type of thing should something like this come around again, an action plan.
Yep. Great. Any closing thoughts? I know you're very optimistic about the future, and creating that bottleneck, but having that demand and being top of mind. You guys are very well prepared. That's why I wanted to make sure you're one of the first guests on the podcast, because I know you have so many good things to share. There's some other folks that got a little bit later of a start and are kind of in a different place. But I think what you've learned kind of gives us hope that we know how to interact with prospects in our more normal traditional ways, and now we have more tools and more resources that hopefully are going to make us better and stronger, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And being very confident. I am very optimistic by nature, but just very confident. That we just continue to move forward. We don't ignore what's in front of us. We work with what's in front of us, but we maintain we're going to get through this mindset, right? And create the bottleneck and do what we need to do, what we're meant to do, and to empower. It's important to take care of ourselves. We hear that so much through this, and it is important. I mean, we've all made the jokes and we've seen the little pictures on Facebook of, pre-COVID and after, and, eating chocolate for breakfast. And then, you just got to forgive yourself and, do those things, but taking really great care of ourselves so that we can, lead the way, if you will, because people rely on, at the community level, especially, people are relying so heavily on us, on our teams, and being, there's strength and vulnerability, certainly, because we don't know everything, but just that being that resource, being someone that's not going to commiserate, but will be empathetic, but will be helping to let's carry this forward, right? Strength, very strong leadership. One last thing, and I wanted just to make mention of the two things that might be helpful to your people listening to this. We have live chat on our website, and we've had a lot of engagement. It's usually the number one engagement on our site, but we've had a significant increase in live chat, and I think people just reaching out, not just about COVID, but I don't know, Debbie, if it's been like the Facebook Live and people feel more connected, but we've had a lot of chat, so I highly recommend people look at that. And then the engagement that we have, or what we've been sending out, I think has in some cases reignited, right, that need in people, or that reminder. So it's so important to just to continue. It's so important to continue to communicate and to look at various avenues of doing that. That's where we have found the greatest success.
Yeah, that's a great point, because I know that, we've kind of loaded up, Vitality with so many different channels that give families so many options about how they would choose to engage, right? So we've got the live chat up, we've got the rubric if people want to get a survey, we've got Lifestyle CX if they want to kind of match their lifestyle to a community. And then we've been doing marketing automation for, 3 or 4 years. So, to have 6,000 contacts that have kind of come in organically that now you can nurture, and it makes the communication a lot easier if you already are set up with all of those tools. If you're scrambling to create those tools in the midst of a crisis, it's going to be a real battle. So having all of those communication channels already in place, then when you have a situation like this, you know how to kind of turn on each one of them. And some people prefer email, and other people prefer, interactive tools. Some people like to go on to your Facebook Live, which is a more of a virtual kind of experience. But when I think about Vitality, being equipped for this type of communication, all the channels are already set up. So I think that that's a really important we didn't have to, we had to make little nuanced changes, like on the landing page for schedule a tour, we had to say, virtually, of course, for right now, but those things can be
Right.
taken off, and amended. But I do think you have a great infrastructure, and make sure your live chat is not a bot. A bot is not going to be able to provide empathy and understanding. Make sure it's a hosted. We love site staff just because they're just the best in terms of empathetic, humanity. How do you humanize your website? Because it is your new front door, and even more so today, it is your only front door that your prospects can come into. So yeah, I appreciate you mentioning that, because I think all of those things, lead to a great experience. Julie, I so appreciate your time today and sharing your senior living marketing perspectives with us. It was a pleasure.
Always a pleasure talking to you, Debbie. I really appreciate you inviting me on.
Absolutely. Next time we'll have a more fun subject. How about that?
That sounds great. Although marketing automation is always fun.
It is always fun. Maybe that'll be our next topic.
Ooh, I would love to talk about that. I would love it. Hope you have a great rest of your day and week, and we will talk soon.
All righty. Take care, Julie.
All right.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.